Chapter 16. More about macrocosmic activities in the microcosm. With the identification of Saturn as the highest manifestation upon a visible plane of Akashic activity, the way is made plain for us to read God's handwriting in the heavens, where he plainly discloses the whole scheme of creation, the descent of spirit into matter through the gradually increasing density of the same, primarily simple elements are ever growing more complicated by repeated permutations as they become more gross. This is the secret of the fact that the chemistry of all parts of space is the same, but the puzzle of the scientist in all his investigation is the ever-recurring akasha, the neutral point, the sushumna, into which all activities disappear or merge. He calls it usually X, that is unknown, hence the X-ray, and the gamma ray of radium is thus classed. The ether of science is the grossest manifestation of akasha, though Madame Blavatsky says that on our plane, for us mortals, it is the seventh principle of the astral light, and 3 degrees higher than radiant matter. In Jupiter, the predominant tattva is Vayu, next in order to Akasha. When near together, Jupiter and Saturn disturb each other more than do any other planets. As there must be a close affinity between ether and air, this is exactly what we should expect. But were it not for the vast space separating Jupiter from Mars, double the ratio of that between other planets according to Bode's symmetrical law of progression, there would be even greater disturbances when these two planets approach each other. As it is, the violent impact of their predominant tattvas, air and fire, is the cause of thunder. The severity and prevalence of thunderstorms depends upon their aspects one to another. Examined through a large telescope, the tattvic activities in Jupiter's globe presents a beautiful picture of varied and changing color, olive greens and purple mingling with the more predominant brown, red, and yellow. Although well-defined zones of reddish clouds, Tejas vibrations, stretch around the sphere parallel with Jupiter's equator, all these masses display the peculiarities of clouds, as in our Earth atmosphere of air, moving with varying velocity and strong aerial currents, and constantly changing their relative position. The equatorial belt itself, brilliantly lemon-hued or sometimes ruddy, shows Prithvi, and the region is sprinkled over with balloon-shaped white masses which are naturally apis. These move faster than the dark and brighter-hued masses. The famous Great Red Spot of vast dimension is an exception to the other evanescent phenomena, for though changing hue from time to time, its stability of position has been an important aid to the astronomer in ascertaining not merely data concerning Jupiter, but important facts in physics. The rapidity of changes upon the surface of the planet indicate to the scientist a temperature not much short of incandescence. We who know the qualities of the tattvas can recognize the source of this as the tejas of the Great Red Spot. The next tattva evolved after Vayu. Towards the poles of the planet, the pure Jupiter vibration Vayu is seen in a vast expanse of blue and blue-gray. When favorably placed in a nativity, the influence of Jupiter promotes a fortunate and honored life, and therefore he has been called the god of fortune. Seen with the naked eye, the planet is a beautiful object shining with a silvery white light, and it was so placed during the winter of 1906-7 that no cloudless nights could possibly be very dark. On moonless nights, Jupiter may cast a shadow on the snow. Astrologically considered, Jupiter represents the temperate, moist elements in nature, its special function being to disintegrate and help to germinate, that is, to promote change in all things visible, and this we know to be the special attribute of Vayu, or motion, tireless, ceaseless motion, for which Akasha is ever at hand providing the space. The color and number of Jupiter's 4 moons is further corroboration of the tattvic law. There are 2 blue satellites and 1 red and 1 yellow. The apis tattva in the Jupiter atmosphere would reflect blue, just as a body of water on the Earth reflects the blue of an azure sky above it. Thus the Jupiter system reflects the law of system within system, every truty of which manifests the whole law. The characteristics of Mars, in which Tejas predominates, have always been so striking that there is a gratifying agreement in all speculation, records, and legends concerning the planet. There is great antagonism between Mars and Venus, as why should there not be, since water extinguishes fire? Therefore, to secure a measure of stability, our Earth comes between these natural enemies as a pacifier, and these greater planetary stabilities reflected in the tattvic changes in our bodies, which are smoother, more harmonious, and imperceptible, flowing from Tejas into Prithvi, and then into Apis, Then could be the case if Apis came next to Tejas. Fevers and chills, blushing and sudden waves of upheaving discord flowing through the body are all manifestations of disorder in the flow of the tattvas, but more especially of Tejas. And always the remedy is to face a situation, no matter what the cause, with mental poise and confidence, directing as long as the disturbance lasts, frequent repetitions of the exercise in alternate breathing, and regularly inhaling deep, full, rhythmic breath. Remember that for all chilly conditions, the held breath is most efficacious. It may be repeated with concentration mainly upon the feet and the solar plexus till perspiration is induced. Through a telescope, Mars displays white at the polar caps, but the ardent, fiery orb appears, even to the naked eye when favorably situated for observation, of a reddish or orange hue. The fiery strength of Tejas vibrations, called into increased activity by all emotion and by intense feeling and by love, have always been recognized as stimulating the passions of man to strife and war. Hence Mars was the god of war. During the rare periods of peace in old Rome, all the panoply and pageantry of war, including the gorgeous red mantles, were treasured in the temple of Mars. The planet Mars is said to be always an enemy of Mercury, but this is the evil aspect of Mars, the contentious state of the planetary vibrations, which struggle against the higher and purer conditions of the Mercury influence. These are felt by all human beings in the proportion that they permit themselves to be swayed by passion and excitement without restraint of reason and will. Even so-called just indignation injects disorder, disturbing the rhythm and harmony of tattvic activities within, and should be shunned. When fortunately placed at birth, the influence of Mars gives to a character earnestness, patience, determination, and courage combined with gentleness. But the cruel, tyrannical, unjust man, always quarrelsome, and often a vain boaster, is under the influence of Mars' most malefic vibrations. He is his own worst enemy, but unfortunately makes an atmosphere of unhappiness wherever he may be. He can win his freedom only through self-conquest, and that is what his free will is for. I must insistently reiterate that every human being has the power to choose between the tattvic vibrations, which may thrill him with harmony or rend him with discord. The rays of certain tattvic states will be reflected only in when the surface is akin. Our thoughts govern that and attract to us our affinities. If we think passion and hate, Tejas is ever ready to supply the fuel. Every exhibition of ungoverned passion in man is a microcosmic cyclone, the path of whose destruction is limited only by the chances of environment. Although the Earth, the most important planet to us, is commonly ignored in considering the planetary correspondence with the tattvas, and the source of the Prathivic current has been severely attributed to the Sun, Mercury, and Jupiter, I deem this not merely short-sighted but a grave error, the only rational solution of which is that it was done in the first place as a reason Madame Blavatsky assigns for many puzzles. To do this is to take the Earth out of its orbit, to speak, and make it an exception to the law. It is but logical to believe that as the Akashic current emanates in greater force from Saturn, and the Vayu from Jupiter, so does the Prathivic current emanate as the ruling tattva from our Mother Earth. If we accept this as proved through the invariability of natural law, it explains perfectly the reason for the preponderating flow of Prathivi in our pranic life currents. See Chapter 13. It is the tattva of our environment, and in its normal flow puts us and holds us in sympathy with that environment. Now please do not ask me how you are to know when this tattva, or any special one, is flowing normally or is disturbed. I have described the varied activities and effects of the different tattvas within the human entity with much more detail than has ever been before attempted. I have analyzed them as only long study and unceasing practice and experiment can enable one to do, and I gladly give to you the benefits of my research expressed as fully and as clearly as love for the task and enthusiasm of purpose can do it. I cannot, however, supply the application and the perseverance individually needed before you can make this detail your own. Without the exercise of these faculties, you can never hope to gain a practical knowledge of the tattvas. It is not a thing that can be poured over you in words, mere words. You must think yourself. Remember what I told you in an early chapter, that a Hindu teacher never imparts any fact to a student which by long meditation he can find out for himself. It is not by once reading, but only after many readings and much thinking, that you can reasonably expect to master the massive detail contained in these chapters, the difficulty being the greater because the subject is, to most readers, absolutely novel. But it is only by thus mastering it can anyone make a personal application of this law of life. When our feet press the earth, we receive the strongest and purest vibration of Prithvi, which is the secret of the exhilaration we feel when we can get into the real country, and of a benefit to nerves and soul derived from long country tramps. This fact also discloses the deep philosophy of Father Knipe's barefoot treatment. In the early morning, before the day's struggle and conflict have generated discord, this especially in large communities where human beings are herded closely, the vibrations are at the highest state of harmonic activity, and when the feet tread the dew-wet grass, the double benefit is gained of receiving the two most favorable tattvas in their freshest and most refined, highly electrified states. On our planet, the Prithvi vibrations are negative to Tejas Mars and positive to Apus Venus. Thus water is negative to the earth. Most dwellers in large cities, where the earth is for the most part solidly encased in stone and brick and asphalt, are grievously handicapped, for it is seldom that their feet come in direct contact with Mother Earth. The efficacy of mud bath is derived from the earth vibrations, but like benefits can be obtained by encouraging in more congenial ways the flow of Prithvi. The planetary influence of Venus upon terrestrial life is very important, as the Apus Tattva, which predominates in that near and brilliant planet, is the unifying element that gives to organized matter its quality of stability. In dry seasons all the green things of earth suffer, and many of them quickly fade and perish, because Mars unites with the Sun to divert or absorb the cooling and refreshing Apus vibrations from Venus, and their own rays increase proportionally in fervor and burning power. As 5/6 of the human body is composed of water, it is of the utmost importance that opportunity be given for the fullest normal play of the Apus Tattva, and this, you will remember, requires that the lowest cells in the lungs be filled. Tight lacing inhibits this absolutely, as it holds the lower lobes of the lungs in a vice-like grip, and usually it prevents anything approaching a free movement of the diaphragm. The practice is slow suicide, yet women revive the inquisitiveness custom as at present, whenever fashion gives the command. The stability of Apus is recognized in the manifestation of prana, which is known as vayana, the force which, during life, keeps the whole body in shape and resists the breaking down and disintegration of its tissue. Next to the deprivation of fresh air, perhaps the most prolific source of human ills is from stinting the body in its supply of pure water inside and out. As a rule, those who drink water most freely take it when they should not, with their meals, when the important digestive fluids need to be undiluted in order to put in their fine work. The greatest benefit derived from visits to famous European cures is due not half so much to the special virtues of the mineral water as to the fact that for several weeks the business of life is the drinking of water in quantities limited only by the ability to swallow it. If people formed the habit of drinking pure water freely between meals, and especially the last thing at night and the first thing in the morning, they would not need to take the cure. Water is the mystical symbol of the soul because it is ever chemically pure. While it is the great solvent, it is also the absolvent and purifier, for whatever of foulness it takes up is held in suspension and can be eliminated by distillation. And thus it is with the soul. Its saving is the choice of freeing itself from the passion and errors of the material sense life. The pure, self-controlled soul and the physical body wherein it dwells, which ever and always reflects the power controlling it, are alike freed from the karma and impurity of unfavorable planetary vibrations which sow discord and incite to evil. Never lose sight of the fact that the sun is the source of the pranic, or life current, which contains in itself all the tattvas, but the variations in proportion of the tattvas injected into the life current come from the planetary currents, in every one in which the ruling tattva of the planet predominates. It is interesting to know that the spectrum of Venus shows the presence of watery vapor. Thus it is that the activities of the macrocosm are reflected in the microcosm. It is in the pulmonary manifestation of prana that the tattvic condition of the vital currents can be most indisputably ascertained, for every tattva throws the elastic spongy cells of the lung into the form of its characteristic vibration. Thus when the apus tattva is prevalent, the cells expand in crescent-like shape. When tejas predominates, they are triangular, and with vayu spherical, and various modifications of these geometrical forms indicate the tattvic permutations. The test suggested for examining these is to hold a brilliant surfaced mirror before the mouth to intercept the exhalation. The vapor, as it condenses upon the cool surface, will take the form of the vibration dominant at the moment, and it can be best seen by another person looking over the shoulder of whose breath is under examination, as of course these vapor cells are extremely evanescent. We have now identified the planetary correspondence with all the tattvas, and there yet remains the smallest and swiftest of the heavenly host, Mercury, who yields nothing in importance to the more brilliant and better-known orbs. He is the bond of union, and truly the messenger of the gods. How he performs this office I shall try to make plain in the next chapter.